engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, two of the three of us. Producer John not going to join us this morning. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so keep him in your thoughts and your prayers. Went into the hospital last night, RSV and the flu. Bad combination. So we're thinking about him this morning as we get into it. Got some big news out of the world of drag racing. NHRA. We haven't talked about them that much on this show. They pull a big name from their rival, the NHRA. We'll talk about that and the implications. Lewis Hamilton gets going with Ferrari. Got Formula E working on another power boost. We got more talk about the next generation of the Indycar chassis. A couple of drivers out there really kind of talking about what they would like to see versus what they've seen so far. Xfinity and Truck Series driver and sponsor moves continuing to be announced. We'll probably see more of that because you got a lot more part-time drivers in those two divisions. But yeah, even at the Cup Series, you got it. And yes, we've got the format for the Clash at Bowman Gray. It's next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Matt Nicholson here. As we noted during the initial tease here, producer John not feeling well, actually got admitted to a hospital up in northwest Alabama yesterday. Flu and RSV, bad double feature there, so our thoughts and our prayers go with him. And hopefully he'll be able to return here fairly soon, but he's more worried about the hospital bill than anything else, so at least he's in good spirits when it comes to that.
The way things are nowadays, I would be too.
Yeah, no doubt. Keep him in your thoughts, keep him in your prayers. Matt, you doing okay? Made it through the cold week here that we had in Alabama?
Yeah, I'm here kicking.
You should have seen us. I mean, we had all kinds of space heaters going because, we're in a manufactured home. It's a nice one, don't get us wrong.
Oh, yeah.
The people that made a really, really nice house, and it kind of freaks people out once they get inside of it because they look around and go, this is a manufactured home? But at the same time, you're still kind of worried about, certain things like pipes and all that kind of stuff. We had space heaters going and cabinet doors open just to make sure pipes didn't burst. We got through it okay. We were blessed, and our friends down in South Alabama, we know your pain. I got a buddy of mine lives down in Foley, Alabama, just north of Gulf Shores. Got 8 inches of snow in his backyard. That's Foley. We got nothing here in the Birmingham area on the I-20 corridor, which is basically along the stretch where we live and work. So, it's amazing how weather works sometimes.
Yep.
Hope you've made it through the week okay, and we get into this week's news. First of all, Chili Bowl Nationals wrapped up last Saturday. We don't usually talk about it in full depth, but we mention it because you get a lot of names out there that you can recognize, and one of them won, actually. Kyle Larson. He didn't get the pole. He was able to take the lead, though, when the green was shown to the field, and from there led the entire 40 laps. Kind of a bit of redemption for him, too, considering the car. Larson said this, quote, "We had a great car. Paul Silva's been working really hard on the midget the last 3 years. And for as bad as we were in 2022 with the same car, to come away with the Chili Bowl win feels great." They didn't make that many advancements in the past 3 years. They were just able to work on the car enough to make it work 3 years in a row.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good for them. Some other drivers of note. In the main, Christopher Bell claimed 10th. Corey Day claimed 11th. As for drivers who didn't make it to the A main, the main feature, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got as far as the B main. Couldn't get past that. J.J. Yaley couldn't make it past the C main. Sammy Swindell made it to the D main, but fell out there. Kyle Busch fell out in the E main. Ty Gibbs in the F main. I'm not sure whether I'm that surprised or I'm more surprised that he made it that far, because I don't generally think of Ty Gibbs as a dirt track racer.
Well, the way the preliminary shook out and how everything lined up, I think he made it. I think he started in the I main and he made it all the way through to the F before he was eliminated.
All right.
If I remember correctly.
Josh Malicki made it to the G main. Santina Ferrucci got to the H main before he fell out. Catherine Legg only made it as far as the O main.
Now that I'm not surprised.
No, you want to talk about a lady who literally, this might have been her first dirt track experience.
It was, and she gets an A+ for effort.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And she made it through one main because it actually went O-P.
Q. No, it started with Q.
Okay, so she actually made it through those. So she advanced a couple of rounds.
I mean, she was probably back in Indianapolis by dark.
Yeah, really. Unless she tried to stick around and maybe tried to learn something. I don't know. Amongst the series that we cover on a regular basis, we got no races to let you know about. What we do know is this. There is some little endurance race that got going on down in Florida. You might have heard of it now that the snow is gone. Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona is this weekend. The entire race will be able to be streamed live on Peacock. And if you don't have that, well, then you're going to have some trouble. NBC will begin their coverage starting at 1:30 p.m. this afternoon, Eastern Time. That's 12:30 p.m. Central. Then it'll go over to USA, and that'll happen until 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central. From there, it is only going to be on the Peacock streaming service until noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central on Sunday, tomorrow as we air live. And that's when it goes on to NBC, and they join and go back all the way from the checkered flag to the post-race ceremony, which would be about, what, 2-ish? Yeah, 2 Eastern, 1 Central. So, yeah, if you don't have the Peacock streaming service, you're going to miss a lot of this.
Yeah, I just know after a couple years ago when we went after that checkered flag field, that pillow in that hotel looked really, really, really good.
Whew, yeah, it did. That was a long time. It was fun, though. It was a fun experience. If you get the chance to go. If you get the chance to go.
It was outstanding.
Yeah. It was great. You've got a ticket buys you full access infield and grandstands. We took the time to do both. It was sitting there. We were both laughing about the fact that courtesy cars that were taking VIPs back and forth were things like Lamborghini Huracans.
Yeah, Porsches, Mercedes, and stuff like that.
You know, high end stuff.
But if that Mazda MX-5 race from Thursday is a sign,
oh gosh,
Lord help me!
It's going to be active.
Be a race of attrition.
It is going to be active, no doubt about it. Let's see. Some of those who are taking part in the Rolex 24 Hours NASCAR drivers include not just the drivers, but as it turns out, Trackhouse Racing is kind of a part of this as well. Their drivers Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilic taking part. Ross Chastain's racing, as is Daniel Suarez. Then you've got Austin Cindric. You've got Parker Kligerman taking part as well in varying different divisions. IndyCar drivers will be running. They include drivers like Scott McLaughlin, Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, Colton Herta, Callum Ilott, Kyle Kirkwood, former IndyCar full-time driver Sebastian Bourdais and James Hinchcliffe. And then there's Pietro Fittipaldi, who I really haven't seen much about what he's doing this year. I know that he was doing some part-time IndyCar stuff last year. He was a reserve driver for Haas F1, but it seems like a lot of that stuff has kind of gone away.
Yeah, I think he's going to be running a lot of road course stuff with World Endurance Challenge.
Yeah, sounds like. All right. So from there, it's not often that we lead off talking about drag racing, but this seemed important enough because overwhelmingly we've talked about the NHRA, the National Hot Rod Association, and they've always been the big dogs when it comes to drag racing. But if you pay attention to drag racing as a general rule, you know that there is another one called the IHRA, or the International Hot Rod Association, or as one of my friends used to call it, the Illegal Hot Rod Association. But the thing about it is the IHRA has always seemingly been backseat or back of the bus, if you want to put it that way. They've been way behind the NHRA.
If you could put it in a fair comparison, NHRA is cup to where IHRA is like Xfinity.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can go with that. Sure. It seems like whoever the people that have control of it now, which we'll tell you about them here in a minute as well, they're trying to put themselves on a higher tier.
And I don't fault them for it.
I don't either. If you're going to spend the kind of money that they are going to spend trying to do this, you need to go get the best people you can. And they've done a really, really nice job of pulling a now former NHRA high-profile employee away from the NHRA to work for the IHRA. His name is Alan Reinhart. Alan Reinhart, you may not recognize right off the bat by his picture, but I guarantee you if you heard him talk and you've been to an NHRA event, you'd recognize the voice.
That's the way the voice level of Barney Hall is to Cup NASCAR.
Sure.
That level of iconic sound, you have that with stock car racing. Alan Reinhart is that same way with drag racing.
Alan Reinhart, the longtime voice of the NHRA, for a long time as the main announcer for the largest NHRA national events, leaves that position and becomes the vice president of racing operations for the IHRA. This was announced Thursday, the 23rd, so just a couple of days ago as we air live. It is a major coup because, let's face it, he was inside the hallways. He knew all the inside workings of the NHRA. And he can honestly say, I know the strengths of the NHRA. I know the weaknesses of the NHRA. Here's what we need to work on, and here's what we need to try and get rid of. Right. And that's huge.
And from a marketing, he was in a lot of the marketing stuff with the NHRA. Several high aspect parts of the NHRA. Now the IHRA is going to have deep insight into how that works. And
on top of that, he will still be an announcer in his new role, mostly for the NHRA Nitro Jam events. These are the big big banner events, if you want to put it, for the IHRA. He will also, at least at the start, be working alongside IHRA President Ron Schaefer, trying to establish set schedules for the series, something that the NHRA does very, very well. Reinhart said, quote, I'm looking forward to a new challenge. I was with the NHRA a long time. It was an adventure for 30 plus years, going to all the races. The opportunity to take on this new venture at a management level, it was time for a change. Reinhardt's hire comes just a week after Schaefer had been brought on as the new president. Alex Roach has been hired as the CEO of the IHRA. All of that was announced January the 16th. It's all the latest move by the group called Cuttle Motorsports. You may not have ever heard of them, but don't worry about them. You'll hear more. Cuttel, Cuttle Motorsports. They're the owners now of the IHRA, and they're reworking the leadership in order to try and basically, again, make the IHRA competitive with the NHRA. They brought on some board members who have they've got it coming in from several different areas of expertise. AI, let's face it, that's pretty much where we're going. You got a whole lot of artificial intelligence going on. You're bringing in people from the automotive world. You're bringing in people from private equity. You're bringing in people from the logistics side of things. They, I think, are setting themselves up for a really nice future if they can survive the initial, hey, we've got to throw a lot of money at this to do the restructure before we start to see that money come back real quick.
Sure.
Because if they don't have that set schedule and we're not sure exactly where all they're going, I mean, we can sit here and tell you right now, and if you know anything about the NHRA, we mentioned the U.S. Nationals, you automatically know you're in Indianapolis. You mentioned the Gator Nationals, you automatically know you're in Gainesville, Florida. Things like that. We don't have that with the IHRA. And that, I think, is where Alan Reinhardt is going to come in and solidify that and make these, what should be flagship races, make them that much more important.
Well, there's already within not one, but two, possibly a third drag strip in Alabama that could have 3 IHRA races within the state.
Absolutely. Yeah. I took some time, looked around the IHRA website. I've added it to my bookmarks because, again, we hadn't really covered them up until now, but now it seems like they're really starting to make that splash. And I started to look at some of their member tracks, and NHRA doesn't have a whole lot of member tracks here in the state of Alabama, but IHRA does. So it's going to be an interesting situation to see where these two start to coexist.
IHRA currently has 3 to my knowledge.
Yeah. Roach and Schaefer came in as Cuttle let go of former President Kenny Noling without really giving a specific reason as to why, other than to say that it just backed up their priorities of safety, competition, and integrity. Read into that what you want to. Cuttle says they're promising another major headline at about the same time this coming week, so I don't know. They did preview it as part of a final part of the organizational structure, along with sponsorship information and racing structure. So we may have more information to come on this show next week. Sit by.
I just hope when they do get the full schedule set, which I think will turn out pretty quick, because there will be some of those you would say would be the lower tier NHRA cars.
Yeah.
I'll say top fuel cars that will merge down to IHRA, because I'm pretty sure some of their rules will mirror the NHRA, where there won't have to be too much transition with the cars.
Probably.
Especially the nitro cars.
Yeah.
There will be some of those come down to IHRA, like Spencer Massey, Lex June, Crystal Baldwin, cars like that.
Sure.
Because you can bring top fuel cars to, which right now, the prominent IHRA track that's promoting itself heavily within the state is Rocket City in Huntsville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will go up 65 in a heartbeat and go watch that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they may re-up it, but not very far from here. Alabama International up in Steel.
Yeah,
I know.
I've heard it called Lassiter Mountain too.
Lassiter Mountain's over off of I-22.
Yeah, but I mean, I've heard of both of them, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I'm misspoken.
Alabama International's in Steel, Rocket City in Huntsville.
Lassiter
Mountain's over on the other side of
was it Dora?
Yeah, in between Dora and Summerton.
Yeah,
up there.
Not a bad drive if you're in the Birmingham area.
The big piece of the puzzle in this state is
Montgomery. Oh yeah,
that's the big piece.
Yeah, Montgomery's it's a very nice facility just north of downtown. Went through it. Might need a little bit of updating in some places, but for the most part, it's ready to go.
Oh yeah.
If you call them, they're good to go.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to watch this situation as the IHRA once again attempts to get themselves on kind of the same footing as the NHRA. We'll keep you updated. And again, if they do have that big announcement that they are promising coming up this week, we'll have the details for you next week right here on the big show. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will get into some NHRA news, actually some big news when it comes to crew chiefs moving around, leaving Tony Stewart Racing, splitting up a pair that's been around and a multiple-time championship winning team. We'll tell about it next.
We will be right for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Appreciate you joining us this morning and talking drag racing to begin with, because if you missed the first segment, you missed a lot, truth be told. IHRA making some big splashes and grabbing a big name away from the NHRA as they try to put themselves on even footing with the NHRA, but there is NHRA news to talk about as well. Amelie Motor Oil returns as officially the title sponsor of the Gator Nationals, the kickoff of the 2025 season. Historic 56th running of the Gator Nationals in Gainesville is the official kickoff of the 74th season of the NHRA. Tickets currently on sale for the event that will feature all four divisions, the top four of the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. So it's going to be a busy, busy time down there to kick off the year. And then the changes coming. J.R. Todd got himself a new and, helpfully to him, experienced crew chief to the 2025 season. 60-year-old Dickie Venables joins as crew chief for the DHL Funny Car. He is a four-time Funny Car champion crew chief. He led Tony Pedregon to the title in 2007 after he was learning as an assistant crew chief on Pedregon's car at John Force Racing from 2003 on. After a short stint with Del Worsham at Alan Johnson Racing, he moved over to Don Schumacher Racing, pairing with one Matt Hagen. He and Hagan won the funny car titles in 2014 and 2020. And then when Schumacher sold basically everything to Tony Stewart Racing, remained there, and they won the title again in 2023. Venables now splits with Hagan and Tony Stewart Racing, moves to Kalita Racing on Todd's funny car. He will team with assistant crew chief John Oberhofer. Venables takes over crew chief duties from Todd Smith, who leaves Kalita Motorsports after being there for 8 years.
That's a big one.
It is a big one. I mean, you think about it, this is a guy who knows how to win titles and lead these cars and get the driver to work properly. So that is big. So what happens at Tony Stewart Racing? Well, they announced that the new crew chief taking Venables' place is going to be Mike Knudsen. He'll be the crew chief for Hagan. Knudsen is almost as experienced as Venables, starting at Jim Head Racing before moving to Don Schumacher in 2005. He's worked with the likes of drivers like Whit Bazemore, Gary Skelsey, Corey McLenithan, and Spencer Massey, and decided to stick with the team when Tony Stewart Racing bought out Don Schumacher. He will have a co-crew chief by the name of Phil Schuler. So it is interesting that they give Mike Knudsen's name out there. It tends to lead me to believe that he's going to be primary and that Phil Schuler is the guy in training, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, or the man in waiting, I guess, might be a better way to put it, instead of training. Because, you know, you're not going to make co-crew chief to be trained to do it. You know what you're doing. You're basically crew chief in waiting at that point.
Yeah, true.
So we'll see how all that works. All right. If you're going to lose a guy like Dickie Venables, to have a guy like Knudsen to be able to come in who has worked with these kind of drivers and knows how to win races, that's a nice thing to turn to. Mm-hmm. All right. This was going to be the number one story until everything with the IHRA and the NHRA broke. But this whole saga of Max Verstappen using words that, well, we can't repeat on the radio during a post-race press conference last year, resulting in him getting the equivalent of community service, has led to a whole lot of fallout. And it has now led to new FIA regulations, like the FIA rulebook wasn't already big enough. It gets bigger.
Let's make it a little thicker, shall we?
Sure, why not? All right, so here's the deal. And this is not just for Formula One. This is for any series that the FIA governs. Ready? Here we go. Should Verstappen or any of the other 20 F1 drivers or any other FIA-sanctioned series have a driver that would repeat Verstappen's verbal mistake again, the penalties are going to be, let's just face it, a lot more than what Verstappen is complaining about still. These take effect immediately. Any driver caught swearing or violating other FIA codes of conduct could be fined, docked championship points, possibly both, depending on the severity. First offense, you will incur a penalty of at least 10,000 euros. That's about $10,500 US. If you're a team member. If you're a driver, that base goes up to 40,000 euros. Second offense, doubles the base and at the FIA's discretion could lead to a 1-month suspension. A third offense ups the base fine to 30,000 and 120,000. So basically any base fine for any other crew member gets quadrupled for drivers. So up to 120,000 euros for drivers, about $130,000 US. Includes also a 1-month suspension and a championship points deduction. They're going hard after this one, boys and girls. The new regulation adds that similar penalties will be handed down for, quote, any words, deeds, or writings that have caused moral injury or loss to the FIA, its bodies, its members, or its executive officers, and more generally on the interest of motorsport and on the values defended by the FIA, and any public incitement to violence or hatred. That's vague.
Moral injury.
Mm-hmm. Or loss to the FIA. How are you gonna quantify the loss?
This makes zero sense.
This is
zero.
And since we're not governed by the FIA, I'm just going to come out and say it right now. This is the head of the FIA, Mohammed bin Sulayem, getting his panties in a wad and wanting to make sure, number one, and I get this part, control yourself during the official FIA-sanctioned post-race press conference. I get that, okay? Because you're trying to be able to have quotes that can be repeated and quoted and shown on video all around the world. That part I get. But he's going against the people that are wanting to criticize, might be the proper word here, to criticize the head of the FIA, Ben Sulayem himself, or the FIA for whatever it is that they're doing. Witness what Max Verstappen was doing basically all the rest of last year when we said, hey, if you don't want to play, take your ball and go home. You know, NASCAR's got some rules for code of conduct in here talking about criticizing NASCAR.
But it's on not the same road.
It's not that heavy. NASCAR's isn't this heavy, though.
Yeah, they're not that heavy, but they're on the same road.
I mean, the FIA's new ruling here is the equivalent of killing an ant with a sledgehammer. And I'm not talking about one that you wield. I'm talking about a power one.
But how are you? I'm going to be interested to see it. Who tests this first? Somebody's going to.
Oh, I'm getting a funny feeling somebody like a Max Verstappen is going to be more than willing to try and step over that boundary.
Somebody's going to test it. And you know, just as well as I know, they're not going to suspend the face of your series. You know that. I know that. They're not going to suspend it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do.
But
I mean, if they've got the teeth to back this up, I'll be more impressed than what I am right now.
Moral injury. Give me a break. Because you're gonna have a moment. It is gonna happen. You're gonna have a moment where you're gonna catch somebody after the heat of battle.
Sure. Heck, we've seen that in every series we know of.
And you don't know what's going to be said and when it's going to be said.
Sure. But that's kind of the fun of it, truth be told. If you can get a driver that you know tends to wear their emotions out on a sleeve, you know, in talking to reporters, MRN, PRN, Fox Sports, NBC, and listening to them in interviews, a lot of them said one of the people that we loved talking to when he was racing, but we also feared talking to when he was racing because if something happened, we didn't know what was coming out of his mouth, was the guy I'm a fan of, Tony Stewart. That was the fun part of it because you were working without a net. You never knew what he was going to say, and therefore you had to be kind of aware of it. Max Verstappen is one of those guys. Lewis Hamilton does tend to be more calculated, but Lewis Hamilton might be willing to see if he can't wield around his 7 F1 titles and see what the FIA is willing to do. Those are the two guys who I'd be watching.
Probably.
You know, and Ollie Behrman, a rookie, they'll be more than happy to slap him around and toss him out for a month. Max Verstappen,
yeah.
I don't know if they're as willing to toss him out for a month. I'm with you on that. Totally.
Yeah, they're no, it ain't happening.
Yeah. So the curiosity here will be who tests it, how far do they test it, and does the FIA have the testicular fortitude, shall we say, to actually stick to their guns?
Yep.
That's the question. Speaking of Lewis Hamilton, he's wasting little time to get into the swing of things with his new team over at Ferrari. Spent a good amount of time this week getting used to his new fire suit, and then he put that on and put it to good use with a new helmet. Very bright helmet. If you're looking at CRN Live on YouTube, it's a very bright helmet. It's going to be very, let's just say, visible. He took to the track in Fiorano. This is within F1 rules. You're allowed to drive one of the older, it's got to be at least 2 years older, F1 cars that any company might have sitting in storage. He was able to take that out on Tuesday and got used to it and said he really enjoyed it. Monday, he spent the full day in official meetings with Ferrari officials, including team chairman John Elkann, CEO Benedetto Vigna, underwent his first official seat fitting for the 2025 season. And let's face it, if no other team in Formula One can say this, and there are a lot of very, very ardent fans, but amongst them all, let's face it, Ferrari fans are probably the most ardent. I mean, they have a nickname called the Tifosi.
Yep.
And they're nothing if not locked into what happens with the team on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. And a whole lot of them found out about the Tuesday run. And despite the fact that it wasn't open to the public, they went out to the Fiorano track and started going to the fences and started looking and trying to see whatever they could catch of Lewis Hamilton turning laps. Reports out of Maranello also have Hamilton reuniting with his longtime trainer, Angela Cullen. This might actually be big, because these two split shortly after the 2023 season began, and we haven't really seen a whole lot out of Lewis Hamilton since. Cullen started working with Marcus Armstrong in the IndyCar series. It backed up speculation the two might be reuniting when she posted a cryptic message on her social media showing a marker with the number 44, which is, of course, the car number that Hamilton races with. When the pairs split in 2023, Hamilton thanked Cullen on his social media, saying, quote, "For the last 7 years, Angela's been by my side, pushing me to be the best version of myself. I'm a stronger athlete and a better person because of her. So today, I hope you'll join me in wishing her the very best as she takes her next steps." And it did seem to help Marcus Armstrong. We talked probably more about him in the 2024 season than we have in the previous years before that combined.
Yeah.
So those two reuniting, him going to Ferrari, which now all of a sudden is sitting second in points, which is where they've been, but they bested the beast in Red Bull, along with McLaren, who won the Constructors' Cup title. This might be something that we really need to be paying attention to as we head into 2025.
I don't disagree.
And then there's this. Strong gets stronger, maybe? We'll find out. Speaking of changing teams, we talked about Alessandro Bravi last week. We mentioned that he was leaving Sauber, and this week he agreed to terms to join McLaren. He becomes their new chief business affairs officer. It's a newly created position within that organization. He officially takes that on February the 1st. He does not have to sit out. He doesn't have a non-compete clause or a gardening clause, as they call it in Europe in Formula One, where he has to sit out 6 months because, yes, he was an employee of Sauber for a while, but remember in 2023, he actually left them officially and accepted a consulting role with them. And that really eliminated any non-compete clause that he had to deal with, because in a consultancy role, you're technically not an employee. You're just contracted to work with them.
Right.
Bravi will also become the head of the driver development program, moving the current head of that division, Stephanie Carlin, into another role within McLaren's F1 operation. She'll report to team principal Andrea Stella. Bravi reports directly to CEO Zach Brown and skips over the team principal. That ought to be interesting. Haas F1 set to make F1 history as well. They have hired the first female race engineer in F1 series history. Her name is Laura Muller. She's going to be the race engineer for Esteban Ocon this year, moving up from the position inside the team where she had held the title of performance engineer before. She'll likely be the one most in contact with Ocon throughout the races over the radio. Says she'll be overseeing the car's performance, calling for pit stops, and basically relaying strategy. Here's the thing. Race engineer does not mean you are the Haas F1 team strategist. That's two different positions all across all F1 teams.
Cheers.
Ocon's teammate, Oliver Behrman, gets a race engineer who's new to the job as well. Ronan O'Hare got promoted from within Haas F1 as well. The new head of strategy is Karine Kridelik, and if I got that wrong, I apologize. Comes over to Haas F1 from Racing Bulls. We'll see how that works.
Yeah.
Lateral move, Racing Bulls to Haas F1?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yep.
But learned under the Red Bull ladder. And I know at some points in time we've talked about how Toro Rosso, Alpha Tori, whatever you want to call them now, Racing Bulls and Red Bull have kind of been held at arm's length from each other. But it seems like they're trying to get them more in sync again over the last year or two.
Yeah, it does. But it's not showing on the racetrack the most critical part yet.
I would agree with that. Yeah, wholeheartedly. So I guess it depends on who he was learning from and how much he was paying attention. We'll see.
That is true right there.
And maybe the most important part about this is Haas F1 team principal Ayo Komatsu got to talking about the expectations for right now the lone American-based team. going into 2025, considering what they did after jettisoning longtime team principal Gunther Steiner and bringing him in for the 2024 season. So we'll get into that when we come back. We've also got IndyCar news here before too much longer, and then we'll start talking about Cup Series and stuff like that. Plenty to get to on this CRN.
We will be right back. Go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
I would tell you guys what all we were talking about during the break, but I think you'd find it kind of boring. We were just talking about what we're doing today, and, well, it's not an exciting day. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for me later.
Yeah, you think?
Well, yeah. There's a new annual tradition that has started with my nephew. His birthday, his 11th birthday was yesterday.
That's right, too.
And he's got this tradition of wanting to go to a basketball game every year. So
Okay.
I took him to see Alabama, Florida last year, so I'm going tonight to see Alabama, LSU.
Oh, okay.
Because
Sounds like fun.
Because I just didn't have to feel like wanting to refinance a truck, or redo a mortgage for a home, just to get into Neville Arena to see Auburn and Tennessee tonight.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more exciting than what I'm doing, which is taking a toilet apart and replacing all the interior in the tank. All right, now you know. Let's get back to racing because that's really what we're here for. Haas F1, as we mentioned, their team principal, Ayo Komatsu, got to talking about expectations heading into the 2025 season. He said this, quote, "We finished P7 last year. In the history of Haas across the years, I don't think we've been competitive across seasons in a similar manner. So for me, that was encouraging. What was encouraging last year was our competitiveness. It increased throughout the year. Then we scored the most points in the last quarter of the year that we ever have. Since Monza, we only missed a point in Brazil. That was encouraging. I'd like to continue that level of consistency, but I only expect competition to be tighter this year Alpine, Williams, Sauber, RB, Racing Bulls. They're all going to be better as well. So I don't know how packed the midfield is going to be, but I expect it to be tight. With more good news over there, Komatsu noted that for the first time in the team's history dating back to its start in 2016, Gene Haas will not have to subsidize the operation. That is big. Komatsu noted that the partners have been signed over the last few years. They have solidified their support of the team, especially after the good showing of 2024. And all of that has allowed the team to be able to operate on their own without the owner pitching in from his own wallet. And on top of that, they have the funding to get up against the F1 mandated budget cap. In other words, they get to spend on par with the other teams. Whether that means that they move up out of the midfield or not, I'm not ready to go that far just yet. And I don't think Komatsu is either. He said this, quote, "This year, for the first time as a company, Gene doesn't have to put in his own money. We haven't been hitting the budget cap. We are hitting it this year, so we have a different challenge, making sure we stay within the budget cap. And it's great that we finally got here, but in terms of the mindset, it's still the same thing. Trackside engineering, we had to change the mindset of everybody of what is acceptable, what we had to strive for." And he noted some of the other challenges. Quote, "Now we have to make sure that we stay within the budget cap. That's, again, a different mindset. If you want to be competitive, that's the minimum of where you need to be. So finally, we feel like we're ticking a whole lot of boxes. We're starting to do TPC. This is what we were talking about earlier with Lewis Hamilton going out there and being able to use an older car and get out onto the track, testing a previous car, TPC. Be on the budget cap, being profitable. With the prize money from last year, the sponsorship money for this year, Gene shouldn't have to put any money in, and that is the first time." But he also noted that Haas F1 is still the smallest team on the F1 starting grid. They only employ about 330 people in all.
That's all?
Yeah. Some of the bigger teams, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, 2 to 3 times that many people just on the F1 team alone. Komatsu believes that there is strength there as well, as they do still have the close working relationship with Ferrari that has helped defray the costs up to now. He says to a certain extent that will continue, but he also noted something. The front suspension that Ferrari is going to use this year is a total changeover from 2024, and Haas F1 is not going with them on that. They've decided to stick with the 2024 front suspension as a cost-saving maneuver. Does that leave them behind the curve? That becomes the question. We'll see. Obviously, the proof will be when they get out on the track. Let's see. Speaking of grabbing people from other teams, Williams has pulled driver Oliver Turvey away from McLaren. Turvey is going to be their new test and development driver for 2025. Turvey, an open-wheel racing veteran, so if you've listened to this show for any length of time, it's a name that's probably familiar to you. He has experience in both Formula One and Formula E and sports car racing. He is set to help develop the car throughout the 2025 season that Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon will drive. As to whether or not he gets a reserve driver role, that is another story. I think test and development driver might be a little bit different. I think he's probably spending more time in the sims checking out potential changes that they could do to the car throughout the course of the year.
Yep, that's what that is.
Miami Grand Prix introduced a first-of-a-kind offer that's, we'll see whether it takes off or not. It probably will, though, because I get the funny feeling this might be a bit on the popular side. It's the one-day grandstand ticket option. Tickets for this year's Miami Grand Prix, set to run the first weekend in May, are on sale now. One-day ticket. Your fans can choose which day they choose to attend. Previously, you bought a ticket for all days. Whether or not you used it all days, that's up to you, which is why they tend to talk about the number of people that attend over the course of a weekend, because you buy a ticket, you may or may not go any or all 3 of those days. You may only go one.
Right.
Now you actually have the option to buy 1 day only. Not an unlimited number, by the way, but all the grandstands around the facility are available for a 1-day option. Of course, the 3-day grandstand tickets are also available. Those automatically enroll the buyer into exclusive perks that the single-day tickets don't allow without a premium cost addition to the buyer. And that's where the money comes in. And then there was this. Used to be Matchbox and Hot Wheels were competitors. Now they're in the same family. Matchbox started by Mattel. Hot Wheels was another company altogether. Mattel bought out Hot Wheels. And since then, they, still being relevant here, they decided to come out. Why would I be talking about this in F1? Well, they've come out with a range of signature product called the Hot Wheels F1 Collection. Those of you watching on CRN Live on YouTube, get to see what we're talking about. They can be bought in both single and 5-pack form and feature 8 of the 10 current teams. In addition, there will be premium collector's items and sets for the 1/64th scale racers. In addition, they will fit on all existing Hot Wheels play sets. Robert Stanici, who's the executive vice president of Hot Wheels, global head of vehicles and building sets for the brand, said, quote, "The spirited response from fans around the world following our Hot Wheels and Formula One announcement has been thrilling. The next phase of the partnership is all about giving fans products and experiences that will bring the worlds of Hot Wheels and F1 together in ways that have never been done before, and we are just getting started." The teams that are included here are Red Bull, Racing Bulls, McLaren, Mercedes, Alpine, Sauber, Haas F1, and Williams. Aston Martin and Ferrari are not featured. Reasons why not given. I can state, knowing this from seeing it in video games and other such things, Ferrari is very notably protective of their own brand. They don't license it out too often. Aston Martin, honestly don't know. You can find out more by going online to shop.mattel.com/pages/hot-wheels-f1. I will tell you this. I went to that site yesterday. All the cars are sold out.
I'm not surprised by that.
Specific F1 play sets are still available. And I get the feeling now with the fact that the initial run has sold out that they'll realize, hey, we need to make a whole lot more because the interest is there.
No stinking doubt. I mean, but if they sold out that quick.
Yeah, I actually would be very interested in getting in on that because I think they look very, very good. I mean, for 1/64th, man, those things look really nicely detailed.
That looks real good. No doubt about it.
So again, if you were checking it out on CRN Live on YouTube, it's pretty cool stuff. I mean, they did a very, very nice job, no doubt about it. So, Hot Wheels, make more. Make more. Who's the biggest car seller on the planet, by the way?
That'd be Ferrari.
It's actually Matchbox and Hot Wheels.
I'm talking about real life. Ferrari doesn't even market themselves.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's turn our attention over to the American-based open-wheel series, IndyCar. Juncos Hollinger Racing revealed their 2025 racers, and it's a slight modification from last year. They're keeping their traditional 3-color green, black, and white combination, changed it up a little bit. It's now pretty much white over the top of the racer where it was green over the top in last year's form. The green will be on the flats of the front and rear wings. Black adorns the uprights of the wings on the sides and the front of the car. It's a good-looking car. Again, a lot less green than last year, which for me, not a bad thing.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
We talked about this last week. I'm not big when it comes to green on a car, period. It's just not my color. It's not my preference. If that's what you like, knock yourself out. But it's never been my preference. I've never really felt like it looked all that great. So the fact that they switched it makes the car look better to me. It's all a personal opinion. It's all a personal opinion. I get it.
It does.
Yeah. So, yeah. Be interested to see how well they do this year. That's the question.
For sure.
Prima Racing hasn't even gotten into the first season of IndyCar yet, and they are already having problems in their front office. Michael Cannon, who was to be their head of engineering, is gone. Cannon moved to Prima in the offseason, just this offseason, from AJ Foyt Racing, helping the team get into their technical partnership with Team Penske and begin to show up with top 10 and top 5 finishes at AJ Foyt before he decided to make the move over to Prima. Cannon was actually on hand when we talked about last week Prima unveiling their 2025 racers. We showed you the car with the fire suits. Actually, it wasn't last week, but it was a couple of weeks ago. He's largely credited with Prima getting the IndyCar program ready to race in time for this season, as opposed to trying to get it up off the ground and going, well, 2027, 2028 might be more realistic. Nope. They're ready for 2025. So now you got a situation where Prima has a void. They're looking for someone to fill that void of knowledge that Cannon takes with him. Cannon is not expected to be out of work for too very long, and I'll be real honest with you. If I was AJ Foyt Racing, I would be going, hey, want to come back?
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean,
open the checkbook up to get him back.
Exactly. I mean, think about what he was able to do last year. And we talked about AJ Foyt and how they started slow out of the gate in that Team Penske collaboration, but man, they came on like gangbusters in the second half of the year.
They did.
We were constantly talking about specifically the 14 ride, Santino Ferrucci, showing up inside the top 10 and even getting some top 5s. We hadn't talked about that ever, it seems like, in the history of this show in talking about IndyCar.
Yeah.
Bring him back, man.
Yeah, go get it. Yeah, go get it.
Go get him. He's out of work. Go get him. The saga of the planned new IndyCar chassis, which should debut in competition for the 2027 season, continues to be controversial. You know, we've talked about this since it first really kind of hit the news as far as, hey, we're set to introduce a new generation, right? The driver and the team owners have seen the initial drawings and the first mock-up. And the problem is that the team owners and the drivers, for the most part, are complaining that they don't feel like it is enough of an advancement from the current DW12 chassis, named after the late, great Dan Weldon, and, of course, coming out in 2012. The latest one to chime in, two-time IndyCar champion Joseph Newgarden. Newgarden said the new chassis needs to be lighter. Not just lighter, significantly lighter than the current DW12. Newgarden said, quote, "For me, that's the number one point. I've expressed that. I think mostly everybody has expressed that. I think as you look at this car now, it's developed into a pretty heavy race car. I'd like us to get the weight down. That's the ideal. And then you produce a high horsepower car, more than what we have now, with a stable aero platform. It's always the ingredients you have to have in this type of series. Our racing product has been quite good over the last 4 or 5 years, so I don't think we want to disturb that or completely overhaul it. And they're working on some new ideas as to even how to improve on that. Indianapolis is probably one of the places that could be mixed up the most, where we want to have great racing product, but it's maybe not completely what we're looking for. Having more competition throughout the field and the ease of passing throughout the field is something that we are lacking. You can pass up front between 2 cars, but you can't go 5 deep. So improving those types of things is top of mind for the development group and what they're going to put in front of us for 2027. So Joseph Newgarden wants to not only drop the weight, but increase the horsepower. Basically, he's kind of advocating to me, let's put IndyCar on the same level as F1 with a power to weight ratio.
Yeah. I see where he's going with it, but you know, you start with that combination right there, you're going to be looking at 245, 246 going off in the corner at Indianapolis.
And Firestone better be ready to go with a tire.
You're going to see who's toting around steel at that point.
Yeah.
Let's just say it that way.
And we do know this, that safety within IndyCar has certainly improved.
No doubt.
The aero screen, which is basically a halo with a windshield on it, certainly has helped. It's helped in Formula One. It's helping in IndyCar. But in the end, you're still talking about an open cockpit car for the most part, which means the driver is vulnerable to an extent.
To a degree.
Much more vulnerable, and I don't think anybody would argue this. And I don't care whether you're F1 or any of the feeder series, IndyCar or any of their feeder series, or Formula E or anything that is along the line of a single-seater open-wheel car, you just can't build in the safety factor that you can, in example, in a stock car.
True.
You just can't. There's not that much car there.
True.
What becomes too much, I guess, might be the best question. I mean, again, I see where he's going with it. He wants to put the power to weight ratio on the idea of a Formula One car. And we don't know what a Formula One car could do on Indianapolis. We've seen it on the road course, yes. But on the actual track, we don't know what an F car would do compared to an Indy car on the 2.5-mile rectangle. Because the power to weight ratio is there is a disparity there.
It is. I will say this, and it's probably not a complete fair comparison, but I will say this into a comparison. If you look at how the cars are, and the cars are on the iRacing platform, and they're pretty close, very close to the real life product that is put out on whichever respective racetrack ran on, no matter what series worldwide. Yes, I have taken an F1 car on the Indy Oval.
In iRacing.
Yeah. You turn right around and drive the actual Dallara, what they call a Dallara IR08.
Okay.
Current Indy car.
Yeah.
current IndyCar top end straightaway, you are looking 238, 240.
Okay.
If you run an F1 car in a similar comparison, you're lucky to flirt with 220.
Really? Okay.
So there is a discrepancy there.
I wonder if there's something involved in that, because I mean we've talked about the whole aerodynamics situation here.
Sure.
And I do wonder if maybe there's a gearing thing that you might do if you were to run that kind of a track with an F.
Oh, there could be a gearing thing that you could do, but when you take them and put them in a similar setup, baseline setup,
yeah,
or one to the other, that's what you get.
Okay. Would be interesting to see though.
I
mean, it's the same idea that we have had for a long time about wanting to see live and in person now a modern day Indy car, or for that matter, a modern day Formula One car out on the high banks of Talladega.
One could hope.
Don't count on it, and don't hold your breath waiting for it.
No.
You'll be bluer than my shirt long before it ever happens. We'll state it that way. All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, when we come back, Penske Entertainment's got more of a hold on things in IndyCar than I think anybody ever really knew beforehand. And they grabbed a little bit more control over it here, and we'll tell you about it when we come back on CRN. Appreciate you sticking with us here. Hour number 2 underway here on this edition of CRN here. The last one, really, for the month of January in 2025. It has gone quick. Think about this. If you are a NASCAR fan, next week they get on the track at Bowman Gray. We've got the format coming up. We'll talk about it here in just a little bit. We're talking IndyCar right now. A couple of years ago, Penske Entertainment bought out the Holman George family. and they took over promotion of a lot of different races as well, including the Indy 500. Well, now they've also taken over the promotion of the season-ending Music City Grand Prix, held in 2024 and again to be held this year at Nashville Superspeedway. From the first one to 2024, Scott Borchetta's Big Machine Music City Grand Prix promotions team actually also handled all those duties, and that group really helped save the race when the Tennessee Titans got approval from the city of Nashville for their new stadium, which prompted construction to begin to impede on part of the street course and them needing to move. Borchetta started looking for alternatives, struck the deal with Nashville Superspeedway officials to host the race in Lebanon, about, 30 minutes from downtown-ish?
Ish, yeah.
Somewhere in that area. And it's a multi-year deal, so it will keep the race in the Nashville metropolitan area until they might be able to move back downtown with the street course race. But, of course, first, they not only have to build the new stadium, they have to destroy the old stadium and clean it up. I don't know how many years this is going to take. I really don't. I don't know how many years this is going to take. We'll see.
They're making some serious progress on the new stadium.
They need to be. They need to be going great guns on that, because I can guarantee you what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to host a Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely.
Meantime, to help promote the new location of the Nashville Music City Grand Prix, Borchetta was able to get several music acts to perform at the track and even put on a big launch party in downtown Nashville promoting the change in venue. The race ended up being pretty well thought of. You and I were there. I thought they did a nice job of putting the race on, and I actually did feel like the racing, because that was one of the digs when IndyCar was initially at the Nashville Superspeedway, was that the racing wasn't that good. I actually thought the racing turned out to be quite good.
It was very... The newer car versus the older car that they ran there, yeah, that newer car put on a much better show.
Yeah, I would agree. Borchetta will remain as the sponsor of the event and has promised that another downtown launch event leading up to the race weekend of August 30th and 31st is going to happen, so he'll still be involved. But for the most part, the promotion now falls to Penske Entertainment. We'll see. Now, here's the thing. 17 events, right? In an IndyCar season, Penske Entertainment is the promotional group for the vast majority of them. They will be the promotional group for the Long Beach Grand Prix, Indianapolis Grand Prix, Indy 500, Detroit Grand Prix, the Iowa Speedway doubleheader, Milwaukee, and now Nashville. Heavily involved in the promotion of next year's Arlington Grand Prix as well, and they, Penske Entertainment, are the main force behind the attempt to get a street race in Denver, Colorado, which is right now penciled into the schedule for 2027. They have not been able to put it in ink yet.
Let's hope they don't.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We can hope all day long, but in the end, Penske Entertainment's going to do what they want to do. It's like NASCAR. It's like SMI. You know, you want to put it on the Charlotte Roval instead of the Charlotte Oval. That's what you're going to do because you own it.
Yep, that's true.
So there it is. All right, let's turn our attention to the Cup Series here and talk about that clash at Bowman Gray that we were just talking about, sponsored by Cookout. I want to give them their proper due. Yeah, it's coming up quick. Again, next weekend. Wow, really? NASCAR has announced the format for the race. 23 drivers are scheduled to take part in what will be a 200-lap feature event Sunday evening, February 2nd. Starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. If you are going, and I don't blame you if you could, because it would be historical and I think it would be fun, bundle up. It's North Carolina on February 2nd.
The mountains.
I heard Dave Moody sitting there talking about it yesterday on his show on Sirius XM Satellite Radio, and he said, yeah, I don't care what it's doing. I'm going to look like Nanook of the North. Because they've told me where I'm going to be, and I can just imagine how cold it's going to be.
Probably in a extended platform overlooking some part of that track.
Yeah. Clubhouse, what did he say? Clubhouse isn't the right word, but you kind of know what I'm saying. Right above turns 1 and 2, above the grandstands, basically is where he's going to be. There's some structure that's over there, according to him, and that's where he's going to be. I use the term clubhouse, but I know that that's wrong. I can't remember the word that he used specifically, but yeah, there's a structure. They've
got something 3 and 4. I know that's like a suite area, for the football games.
Mm-hmm.
This in 3 and 4. Now 1 and 2, it's the stands are like in a horseshoe, like
Ohio
State.
Yeah.
Horseshoe shape.
Sorry,
And then they open up.
Ohio State.
They open up in the end where you exit and enter the track, and then you've got like a suite area. So
Somewhere up there.
Maybe that's it.
Which means that he's up above all the structures and all the wind is going to be smacking him.
Yeah.
I hope the weather holds out. I do. But, yeah, there's a really, really good chance it's going to be quite cold. I don't envy the MRN guys who have to be outside for this. Things, however, not just going to be on February the 2nd. Things will start on February the 1st. They're going to be practice sessions with all who come being split into 3 groups. Each group gets 3 practice sessions each. Fast lap from the final practice will set the field for the first heat race. Yes, there will be heat races. 3 heat races in all. Top 5 finishers from each heat race advance to the Clash. Then there'll be a last chance qualifier, 75-lap race on Sunday afternoon. The top 2 finishers will fill out the field, 23 starters in all.
Rut row.
Yes. You're looking at the weather, aren't you?
Yeah.
I had to think about what it was you were wondering about. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are they calling for? Are we going to get an actual snowball derby, with all due respect to Pensacola?
No. Actually, the temperature is not going to be that terrible.
Ah, okay. That tells me rain. How much of a chance?
50% right now for Winston-Salem for next Sunday, but we know that can change because
we'll see.
Forecast can change within an 8 to 10 day span.
Oh, yeah.
No pun intended.
Sure. For those of you in the Birmingham area, you know who we're talking about. All right. So now we've got your lineup set. When the 200-lap race starts, by the way, for all the heat races, yes, you will have caution flags. Caution flag laps don't count. All heat races must end under green. When the 200-lap race starts, the lineup set by the heats. Heat 1 winner gets the pole. Heat 2 winner gets the outside of the front row. Heat 3 winner gets inside row 2, so on and so forth. Again, only green flag laps will count. The race must finish under green. There will be one break. It's at the midway point, the 100-lap mark, where some work will be allowed to take place on the racers with NASCAR officials watching very closely.
Let's hot pit them babies on the grass of the football field. Let's hot pit them there.
There you go.
Let's go.
I'm sure the football field people and the groundskeepers love that. You good with this? It seems pretty similar to kind of some of the things that we saw the last couple of years when they were at the LA Coliseum.
I'm gonna, yeah, but I'm gonna look at something here.
Okay. What are you thinking here?
I'm looking at how I've got to look at an aerial shot, satellite shot of that.
Okay.
I need to.
You need to get your eyes on the stadium?
Yeah.
Okay. While he's doing that, we'll let you know one of the other things that's going on, because this was a question that's actually come up quite often. NASCAR announcing changes ahead of the 2025 season, and one of those is in regards to that noted Goodyear option tire. That's that soft, really kind of almost gumball compound tire that they used last year, first at North Wilkesboro, then again at Richmond. This time the option tire is going to get a new place. Unfortunately, not Bowman Gray. Hate that. I think it should be there. It's going to go, however, to Phoenix. NASCAR.com reports that if all goes well there, that compound, this is the problem that I have with this, by the way. You want to give an option tire, that's great. That creates a strategy call for the crew chiefs and the drivers. Hey, do we want to use the softer compound tire? Is it worth it? Do we think that we, are going to have a long run here? There's a strategy case involved there. But NASCAR.com reports that if all goes well in spring at Phoenix, then that compound is actually in talks to become the primary compound for the title race in November, and there will be no option tire for that race. I'm not big on that. It's called an option tire for a reason. It's not your primary tire. It's an option tire.
That is stupid.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's stupid.
I agree. I mean, again, you want to go and have a nice, soft, gumball compound tire. Knock yourself out. I have zero problem with that. But your primary tire is called the primary tire for a reason.
Houston, I see a problem.
Okay, what's your problem?
Big problem.
Yes.
How
Carefully.
in the world are we going to park 40 Cup Series 30 36 Cup Series haulers minimum.
Sure.
And no telling how many modified haulers are we going to.
Oh, they won't be in the infield. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, we know that's eliminated.
Yeah. I don't know where. There's someplace off-site that they're going to be doing that. Is there a decent-sized parking lot nearby?
The parking lot is what it is, a parking lot.
Sure. I mean, that's all you got.
Where you have access to on and off of the racetrack. I don't see how you're putting that many haulers.
Oh, it's not even big enough for doing that.
No, because that building that is at the end of that track, that the building where I'm pretty sure Moody's going to be at.
Yeah.
That building encompasses, I'm going to say, 15% of that parking lot size.
Ooh. Okay.
So
they're going to be shoehorning people in.
yeah, the west parking lot of the stadium, where it would be big enough, where you would have to access the racetrack. The way you would have to access the racetrack, you would have to drive out onto Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and loop around, because you don't have a way to go in backside.
That's probably the way they're going to do it then.
They would have to park them in that lot outside of the track right there.
Yeah. And then that leaves a parking situation for all the fans that are showing up, the, 20,000-ish?
I think it's 17,000.
Yeah.
And
so now you got a situation where you're going to have to find parking for all the fans because you've taken up your parking lots with the haulers.
Yeah, there's going to probably be an awful lot of parking on Winston-Salem State University in the grass parking lots. Because
and shuttle them over, maybe?
Yeah. Because
it is an opportunity for the city of Winston-Salem to show themselves off. And you better take it. You better take it. You and I noted this. We went to the very first game that the Birmingham Stallions played. And Protective Stadium was very nice. Our biggest complaint was the fact that there was, let's just say, a lack of parking in and around that area, in that downtown area. And that's the problem with downtown areas. And, for Birmingham, using them as an example because that's what we know, where that stadium is not too far away from the convention center where concerts, basketball games are held, plays are put on, Broadway in Birmingham, things like that. They're going to have World of Wheels there next week. So it's multi-purpose convention center. Plus you got a Top Golf, and they're building now an open-air amphitheater called the Coca-Cola Amphitheater, which is going to come in there. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine in the early summertime having a football game with the Stallions in the UFL, having a concert at the Coca-Cola Amphitheater, and then doing something at the BJCC Convention Center?
Woo!
Where you gonna park?
Good question.
And Winston-Salem is having to now figure that out because they've got to deal with haulers from the Cup Series and from the Modifieds.
Yeah, because it's probably the reason why they're going to do tech for the Cup cars at Charlotte.
Yeah,
the track.
And then haul them over there.
And then
sealing up the trailer along the way to make sure nobody's sitting in there.
What are we going to do? Zip tie the doors? Oh, your zip tie's broken.
At this point, at this point in time, if I was NASCAR, I would have an official ride in the truck. Just to be real honest.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Because you can't use any parking at Wake Forest because Wake Forest is on the other side of Winston-Salem.
Yeah, that's a long haul.
Bowman Gray is.
Yeah, that's a long haul.
Yeah.
Even though Wake Forest has used Bowman Gray in the past, they don't now. It's much too small of a stadium for them, but they have in the past. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting situation to find out how this all works, but we'll keep you updated. The race format. We'll leave NASCAR and Winston-Salem to work out all the logistics themselves. We were thinking about trying to go, but they have very limited number of media credentials that were allowed in there. We didn't make the cut. When we come back, this is pretty interesting. Trackhouse Racing signed I'm just going to call it as it is. Trackhouse Racing has signed a huge sponsor for 2025. We'll tell you about it next. back into the show here. Steve West, Matt Nicholson. I was looking at the map that Matt was looking at. Yeah. There are options for you to maybe be able to park on grass. There is a running track kind of across the street, so to speak. A lot of that stuff's going to be used. There's a water treatment plant that's over there as well. I can guarantee you're not parking on their land. They're not going to allow that.
Nope.
And what is that? Is that a neighborhood over there that we were talking about where people are going to be parking on the streets?
Probably.
Going to be some annoyed homeowners. There's going to be some homeowners that ought to take advantage of it, though. It's like, hey, you want to park here?
Probably.
Give us some money.
Yep.
All right. You might remember this. If you're a longtime fan inside NASCAR, you might remember when Red Bull Racing, you know, those guys of the multiple F1 championships, used to have a team in the Cup Series. That was 2006.
Ooh.
They grabbed the old Team Penske headquarters when Roger Penske sold their old one and moved his NASCAR operation into a new facility. And you probably remember them as being a Toyota team, right? That first year, Toyota wasn't ready.
No.
They raced Dodges and then switched to Toyota in 2007. Kind of like their F1 team that went through a raft of drivers, 11 of them in all from 2006 to 2011. Red Bull at the time said that NASCAR just didn't give them the response they were looking for from the 18 to 34-year-old demographic that they were seeking. So they sold the team. And it promptly went to, well, junk with BK Racing following the 2011 season, and they concentrated on open wheel racing, and well, the results have been good. Let's just put it that way. Well, they're back. Red Bull is not really owning their own team, but as a sponsor at Trackhouse Racing for the drivers Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilisch. They're going to be a primary sponsor for SVG in 5 races this coming season on the number 88 Chevrolet. That's going to be odd to say because the last time we talked about the 88 was very much attached to Dale Jr. They're going to be on the 88 for SVG at Vegas first, then Sonoma, then Iowa, Daytona in the regular season finale, and in the playoff race at Kansas. This, by the way, continues a relationship that SVG has had with Red Bull dating back to 2016 when he was first sponsored by the energy drink maker in the Australian Supercar Series. He's repaid them quite handsomely, by the way. He won the series title that year, repeated the feat again in 2021 and 2022, racking up 78 wins and 47 pole positions in total. Then there's Connor Zilisch. This benefits him in a number of ways, actually. He's actually going to get the chance to make his Cup Series debut this year at COTA, while also racing full-time in the Xfinity Series for Junior Motorsports. Red Bull has signed him, kind of like they did SVG back in 2016, as what they term a Red Bull athlete. Did that just last August. When the series gets to COTA this spring, Trackhouse will put a 4th car on the road course for Zilisch, and it will sport the number 87. You're looking at CRN Live right now. The picture of those 2 cars is up right now, and here's going to be the pain. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two. Basically, it's a strip of white along the rear quarter panel. That's about it. Otherwise, they look practically identical.
Justin, if you make the call and need a spare spotter, that's what. If you need a spare spotter for one of the Red Bull cars, please have one of the crew chiefs or something put a different stripe along the splitter so it's identifiable.
Mm-hmm.
Because about all you can see, there's the only clear split of identification for it was worded that way. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
The front of Van Gisbergen's car's got red.
Yeah.
Zilisch's car's got the white stripe.
And that's along the bottom near the splitter.
And on the backside as well.
Yep. That's really it.
The roof numbers, Zilisch's is red, Gisbergen's is white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, not a whole lot of difference.
I smell another Trackhouse front row lockout at COTA.
Zilisch is good. Here's the thing.
I'm not surprised he's making a start this year.
Yeah, I mean, Zilisch may be one of those exceptions to your rules we had been talking about here not that long ago about how you would advance up from the Arca Menard series up to the trucks and then up to Xfinity and then up to Cup. Connor Zilisch has come in and he has really made a name for himself in doing amazing things here. It may not be all that long if you can find a place for him, and I don't think Trackhouse is going to be all that shy in looking for one if they can, in putting him into the Cup Series in a very short order.
Yeah. Or they will have another car somewhere else.
I can almost guarantee you they'll be more than happy to throw a fourth car out there, more than just at COTA this year. COTA's early.
Oh, if he runs top 5 at COTA, that car will be back at another track.
Chicago, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, just to name a couple.
If that car's not on the track at Watkins Glen, I will be shocked.
Yeah, I would be too.
I would be totally shocked.
And, depending on how he does in his ride for Junior Motorsports, Trackhouse may be pulling out a checkbook and starting to make calls and trying to see who's got a charter available. Rick Ware.
True. That is true, but...
Well, here's the thing, though. They can't. They're limited.
3.
Wow. Now what? SVG's fine. For a couple of years, SVG's fine. Again, he's in his mid to late 30s. But he's good for a couple of years. Now, all of a sudden, do you think that a couple of the other Trackhouse drivers, Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain, feel like their seat just got a little warmer?
If anybody's got warm, it'd be Suarez.
I would think so, too.
If anybody's got warm, unfortunately, if anybody's got warm, it'd be Suarez.
Yep. We'll see. I found this move interesting. RFK Racing announced they hired a guy who you've probably heard of. Former ABC and NBC sports reporter Mike Massaro. Haven't seen him really in a couple of years. Now we kind of know why. He is moving out of the broadcasting side of things and into NASCAR, and he has become the team's marketing and communications head. Massaro has more than 2 years of broadcasting experience. He's claimed multiple Emmy nominations and other broadcast industry awards. He was part of ESPN's NASCAR Now telecast during the time that they had the rights to the series. You might remember that. That earned him actually one of his many Emmy nominations. Mike Massaro is now part of RFK Racing. This is a nice move on their part because he's got connections that, truth be told, even I couldn't even dream of having.
If you got him partnered up with the guy that likes like Kevin Woods, their main PR guy that's really, really good.
Yep.
Brad's building a little bit of an empire there.
Oh, yeah. And I don't blame him a bit for doing it.
And he's doing it the right way.
I agree wholeheartedly. He's not jumping in and trying to do too much too fast. He is going, okay, concentrate on this, get this settled, make sure it's solid, move to this one. Make sure it's solid and settled, move to the next thing. Solid, settled, move on to the next thing. He's doing it right.
Yes, absolutely.
Then there's Kroger. We talked about Kroger signing on as a major sponsor with RFK Racing, and we talked about this at that time, how one of the other sponsors likely was going to be looking elsewhere because of a conflict of interest. The details are out. That sponsor is none other than King's Hawaiian Bread. But they wanted to stay in NASCAR. That's the important part, and therefore they found themselves a nice landing spot. Very soft, pillowy landing spot. Joe Gibbs Racing, the 11 car. King's Hawaiian has jumped over to Joe Gibbs Racing. They're going to be a season-long associate sponsor on the 11 car, and they'll be a primary sponsor for several races, starting with Atlanta in June. They're going to be in the hood of the car again at the regular season finale at Daytona, then the Bristol night race, and at Martinsville. It's a multi-year deal with Joe Gibbs. Kind of helps blunt the loss of a longtime 11-car sponsor FedEx, which had talked about initially backing off their sponsorship, and then they just turned around and decided to end their NASCAR sponsorship altogether following 2024. You might sit there and wonder, what's the conflict of interest? Kroger, it's a supermarket. They carry King's Hawaiian, right? Well, they carry it, yeah, but they are also kind of the parent brand of a company called Bimbo Bakeries. And if you haven't heard of them, they make bread. A lot of bread. Sold at stores like Kroger. There's your conflict of interest. All right. Also joining Joe Gibbs Racing, this time to the 54 car of Ty Gibbs, Saya LTL Freight. Now, quasi-competitor, so to speak, of FedEx, not anywhere near as big. They are what they call themselves a less than a truckload delivery company that operates in North America and offers expedited services throughout their subsidiary called LinkX. They operate more than 200 terminals across the United States, employ about 15,000 people. Saya, you want to talk about a different look for that car. So used to seeing the black with a little bit of green, Monster Energy look. man, this thing is vastly different. But it's not a bad look. The first race for Saya as primary is going to be Atlanta Motor Speedway. Other races will include, we'll get to see it up close at Talladega in the spring. Texas Motor Speedway, going to be at the NASCAR All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro. They're also going to be on the hood at Sonoma, the Brickyard 400, and in Las Vegas. Not a bad lineup.
That is the way that red and white lays on that car is reminiscent of the old Budweiser schemes of Junior Johnson cars.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Sure. Yeah, I've got one of those diecast. If you want to go back and look at this week's crossed flags and look at the display behind me and look kind of up towards the top for some of the 11 cars, you'll see, I think there's a Budweiser up there. I think. Been a while since I actually studied and researched it, but yeah, if I don't have one, I'm looking for one. Know anybody? The former MBM Motorsports, now called Garage 66, still MBM in the Xfinity Series, changed the Cup Series arm of the operation to Garage 66. We talked about that last week. They now have their new driver, since NASCAR decided that they weren't going to let NASCAR veteran Mike Wallace drive. After doing a search for a driver who could bring in a bit of money along with him, they have tabbed Chandler Smith. Chandler Smith brings sponsorship with him in the form of QuickTie. QuickTie, by the way, is a company that has patented a hold-down system for high wind and seismic construction projects. They just celebrated 25 years in business. Coble Enterprises, which had signed on with Mike Wallace as the driver, as the primary sponsor, will remain as an associate sponsor for this particular race. So Chandler Smith comes in. For those of you on the radio, Matt's unimpressed. Any port in a storm and a person who brings a paycheck? Is that basically what you're thinking?
He won't get past Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately for Carl, I hate to say that for Carl, but he won't get past Thursday.
Okay. And here's the thing. We've got heavyweights in that open division. We talked about this last week on the show. We got heavyweights in those open cars. Big time heavyweights.
Super weights.
Carl Long's going to have to bring everything and the kitchen sink to be able to fight up against that.
Yeah, he better bring the sink, the stove, the dishwasher, the refrigerator, bring the television, the washing machine, the dryer, and everything.
He's going to have to throw everything at it because he's got some stiff competition for those open positions. No doubt about it. Cowlick Racing and Ty Dillon have a new sponsor for the number 10 car. They are bringing back the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company to NASCAR. No, it's not for cigarettes. It's for a product called the Grizzly Nicotine Pouches. It's from their American Snuff Company affiliate. The look is going to debut at the Daytona 500, be on the car for 8 more races throughout the year. Those 8 races will be Texas, the All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro, Coca-Cola 600, Nashville, Southern 500, the Bristol Night Race, and then the playoff races back-to-back at Talladega and Martinsville. I got to admit, pretty good-looking car, but it's Ty Dillon, and I hate to say this, Cowlick Racing, but I am thoroughly unimpressed with Ty Dillon. We have seen drivers, witness John Hunter Nemechek, who went from the Cup Series down to the Truck Series, worked their way back up to the Cup Series, winning races all the way. Ty Dillon couldn't win a darn thing at the Cup Series level, drops all the way back down to the Truck Series. We kept an eye on him.
Still couldn't.
He did nothing.
He took a truck that was in the playoffs year before and took it out of the playoffs. Sorry.
And somehow lands at Cowlick Racing?
And if this year, Dawson Sutton puts that truck in the playoffs, I'm only going to get louder.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I have seen nothing from Ty Dillon that warrants him being in this car. Nothing.
When you have to drive a car with a sponsorship that the warning label from the FDA is larger than the sponsorship label, you've got a problem.
Yeah, and it's very prominent. Look up at the top of the hood. If you're looking at CRN Live on YouTube, look at the top of the hood, right at the base of the windshield. Look right under where the window net is. There's your warnings. They have to put that on the car. And that's why you really don't see cigarette advertising on cars anymore because you have to pair the sponsorship with the warning.
Yep.
Let's see. What else are we working on here? Fox Sports. They seem, and I'm just going to say this, I like Fox Sports. Mike Joy, I think, does a fantastic job, and Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, they do a great job down on pit road and in the turns. I think, really, for me, Fox Sports does it very, very well. Maybe the best. We'll see what Amazon Prime, we'll see what USA does, or TNT does. I know, I keep making that mistake. We'll see what TNT does. We know pretty much what NBC does. But in a lot of ways, the biggest criticism for me is this deal that they signed with IndyCar. Congratulations to IndyCar. It's great for them. All their races are on the main network. They've got nothing to complain about. Fox and NASCAR, on the other hand, might need to have a talk because Fox is supposed to carry 14 races, but only 4 of them are going to be on the main network, something we've detailed here on this show. But at least, even though they do seem to be putting NASCAR on the back burner, they're working on a couple of good documentaries, ones that I do want to watch and can't wait to see, about the Cup Series that are going to debut soon. First up, actually, will debut on Monday, 2 days from now as we air live, Monday the 27th. It's called The Madhouse, NASCAR's return to Bowman Gray Stadium. It's going to go over NASCAR's history at the track leading up to their last race there back in, 1971, 72?
Yes.
It'll be narrated by Fox Sports' own Tom Rinaldi, who does a fantastic job as well. That will be fun to watch. And then there's going to be something that'll come out Thursday, February the 13th. Immediately following the duels at Daytona, documentary entitled So Damn Close, Atlanta 2024, race that Matt and I were there in person to see, will detail the closest finish in NASCAR history, the result of that 3-way battle between Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Busch. It's going to be a round-table interview. All 3 drivers are going to be there talking about the race and the finish from their own points of view surrounding it.
Well, I can, if they want to just bring us in with our view, we're standing up at the edge of the suite up there at the press box and going, oh, dear Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Lord, have mercy.
And we were listening, and somebody called Kyle Busch the winner, I think it was. Or was it Blaney? Who are we listening to? I think we were listening to Fox Sports.
Boyer called Blaney.
Boyer called Blaney. MRN, one of the MRN guys admitted, and I don't know whether it was Striegel or Alex.
It was Mark Garrow, PRN.
Mark, okay, yeah, you're right. Mark Garrow, PRN, admitted he thought Kyle Busch won, I think. And then we turn around and we find out that it's Daniel Suarez by the ridiculously slim margin that was there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully they do get Fox Sports commentators and PRN as well and get to talking to them, because I think it is just as fascinating to get it from their points of view as it would be to get it from the driver's point of view.
It would.
Absolutely. Wow, are we this close to the end of the show already? We're into our final break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to the Xfinity Series, got some Truck Series, Formula E news as well. And then if we got the time, and I hope that we do, a couple of other bits of interest for you. So busy final segment.
I'm about to get loud.
This ought to be fun. Soapbox being dusted off and waxed in preparation for one Matt Nicholson. Next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Rolling. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Final segment of the show here in the next 15 minutes. Let's see how much we can get to, shall we? Richard Childress Racing's pulled a name from the past to continue in their current Xfinity Series program. They have brought out Casey Kane. He'll return to top-level NASCAR competition for the first time since retiring from the Cup Series following the 2018 season. Kane was named to NASCAR's 75 Greatest Drivers back in 2023. He'll take part in the organizational test for the Xfinity and Truck Series teams at Rockingham. Why the Truck Series, you ask? Well, he won at Rockingham in the Truck Series in 2012, but also the Truck Series gets to race at Rockingham in addition to the Xfinity Series. Kane will get into the RCR number 33 Xfinity Series Chevrolet for the race planned on April the 19th. Sponsorship coming from HendrickCars.com. Kane's an 18-time winner in the Cup Series, including having a Daytona 500 and a Brickyard 400 win. Currently racing in the high-limit racing circuit, co-owned by Kyle Larson, who happens to be also sponsored by HendrickCars.com. I'm not saying that there's necessarily a connection there, but I'm just noting that there is a connection there. And now Matt is on his soapbox.
I've got a problem with this.
A big one or a small one?
A big one.
A big one, okay. Go for it.
All right. What's the year you just said that he was last in a stock car?
2018.
What did we say this is the last year that Mike Wallace was in a stock car?
If I remember right, that was about
2021.
21, yeah. So more recently for Mike Wallace.
I don't care. People, there is a major difference.
Did you hear major, by the way? I heard major in there somewhere.
Between a sprint car and a stock car.
Sure.
He's not been in a stock car for longer than Mike Wallace has been out of a stock car. But we're disqualifying Mike Wallace from running a race, but we're letting Casey Kane run a race.
You want to know what the distinction for NASCAR is going to be? Daytona versus Rockingham.
I don't
care. I agree. I agree with you on that.
It does not matter.
I agree with you on that. Don't get me wrong.
It does not matter. I don't care. Casey Kane, Mike Wallace, I don't care.
And remember this. When they said Mike Wallace can't go, according to Mike Wallace, they said he couldn't actually race this year in the Cup, Xfinity, or Truck Series either in 2025.
Same principle. He's been out of a stock car since 2018. Mike Wallace has been out since 2021. What's the difference? You're going to use the determination, it's the size racetrack. I don't care.
No.
I do not care. Well, he's been running competitively. Sprint cars are different than stock cars, Hoss.
Mm-hmm.
Sprint cars weighs like 1,400 pounds. Stock cars weigh 3,400. Big difference.
And then they'll throw out the whole organizational test where he can prove himself. Well, here's the thing.
Last I checked, ARCA's an organizational test.
Yeah. Put him in the ARCA race that happens the day before the Daytona 500. We mentioned that too. Yep.
You're letting Elio do it.
I'm with you.
Why can't Mike Wallace do it?
I'm with you. 100%.
This is the clear-cut definition of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I don't care.
This is a sincere lack of consistency on the part of NASCAR. 110%.
Monstrous.
Agreed. Alpha Prime Racing got a couple of announcements here. They continue to finalize their 2025 plans, announcing NASCAR veteran driver Mason Massey. He'll get 11 races for the team in their number 45 Chevy. Massey has 55 starts to his credit in the Xfinity Series, 24 of them coming in 2022. Last year made 3 starts for SS Greenlight Racing, garnering a best finish of 11th at Talladega. Got 16 starts in the Truck Series as well with Young's Motorsports. His first race for Alpha Prime will be race number 2 on the season at Atlanta.
Home race.
Another driver announced for the 45 is Brad Perez. Perez is signed for at least 4 races this coming year. I say at least. Over the past 3 years, he's got a dozen starts in Xfinity Series competition, 5 in each of the last 2 years. The best finish in 2024 was 18th at COTA. That's where his first race will be in 2025. Plus, they needed a little bit of sponsorship, and they've added some. Mongoose Power Solutions joins as a primary sponsor for 5 races, regardless of driver. They're going to be on the hood for the season opener at Daytona, Vegas in March, Pocono, Dover, and then Talladega in the fall. There'll be a co-primary, at Watkins Glen and Bristol. In addition, there'll be an associate sponsor for the races at Nashville, Iowa, Kansas, and Martinsville. We know this. Cesar Baccarella will be the first driver that Mongoose sponsors. He'll be driving at Daytona. Again, expect the roundtable to be throughout the course of the season in the 45 car for that sponsor. They're buying the car. as opposed to the driver, which to a certain extent, I don't really have a problem with that.
It's what it needs to be.
It's the way, yeah, I agree. It's the way that it needs to be. Junior Motorsports has extended their sponsorship deal with Jarrett Logistics. Jarrett's going to be the primary sponsor for 6 races on the number 7 car for Justin Allgaier, defending champion. Jarrett, founded in 1999, a leading third-party logistics provider and one of the top of its kind in the United States, so they just keep getting better. And congratulations. I mean, if you're a champion, that's what you get. You get to enjoy the spoils of your title by gaining sponsorship. And then there's this one, BRK Racing. Not BK Racing, BRK Racing. This is a group called, or owned, I should say, by Randy and Beth Knight. Penigget, if you are a Monty Python fan. They formed a partnership with SS Greenlight Racing. They're going to put Garrett Smithley behind the wheel of the number 14 Chevrolet. Being part owners of this ride, the Knights own a company called Knight Fire Protection based out of Olympia, Washington. They will not only be co-owners of that ride, so to speak, they will be the primary sponsor of the car. I couldn't get a picture of it. I haven't seen one yet. This is interesting. I will be interested to see if this is them just kind of dipping their waters into NASCAR and then saying, we like it enough, and they're going to go full bore.
That's what it seems like.
It does seem that way, but we don't know yet. I do think this is them testing the waters.
Yeah.
We'll see. To the Craftsman Truck Series here, where Spire Motorsports revealed Thursday they have drafted Mexico City native Andres Perez de Lara for a full-time ride in their number 77 Chevrolet truck in this upcoming season. This seems like it took them a long time to figure this out. De Lara is set to seek the 2025 Series Rookie of the Year. He's coming off of 2024, where he won the ARCA Menard Series title. Got 2 starts, both for Spire in the Truck Series in 2024. Got a top 10 at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. His crew chief will be Chad Walter. Walter sliding over to the 77 from the number 71 truck. Brings more than 2 decades of crew chief experience along with him. Called the shots for Rajah Caruth the last 2 years. The young driver claiming his first Truck Series win just last year. Got into the playoffs, but Caruth is gone. He moves up to the Xfinity Series full-time in 2025. De Lara, coming off a season where driving for Rev Racing in the number 2 in the ARCA Menard Series, claimed the 2024 title, racked up 10 top 5 and 17 top 10 finishes, became the first Mexican-born driver to claim the ARCA Menards title in its 72-year history. Sponsors on the 77 truck include longtime Mexico company called Telcel, along with Infinitum and Claro. More sponsors are to be announced.
Rajah's going to. I thought Rajah was back in trucks this year.
I thought I heard he moved up.
I thought he's back in trucks.
Either way, doesn't matter. He's not running, from what I can tell.
Surprised so if he's back in trucks, I'm surprised he's separated up from Chad Walter. That's surprising to me.
I would agree with that. As far as Perez de Lara, do you have a problem with him, considering his resume from just last year?
A huge problem.
Okay, what?
What has he done?
Other than what he did last year?
Other than having Telcel money. What has he done?
That's the money situation.
Nothing.
Again. Yeah, that's the money situation we were talking about.
Absolutely. Never mind. I ain't going to say it.
Then there's this one. Rayom Brothers Racing assigned Alabama native Cody Dennison to be part of their driver lineup. He'll drive the number 2 Ford F-Series entry. Dennison raced in the ARCA Menard Series in 2024. Got 18 starts, mostly for a company called Fast Track Racing. Claimed 2 top 10s, finished 7th in the final points. He'll get 8 starts in the number 2 truck with sponsorship from groups like Timcast, Elite Bath and Showers, Airbeam Designs. This will begin at Martinsville. Other races are to include Rockingham, Texas, Kansas, Charlotte, Pocono, Lucas Oil Raceway Park in Indianapolis, and then Richmond.
Yeah, Rajah is back in the 71.
Is he? Okay, my apologies. So, yeah, they did split him up.
That's
odd.
Quite surprising.
Yeah. I mean, with the success it looked like they were beginning to have some of, and seeing some of the growth that we saw out of Rajah Caruth, yeah, that's a bit surprising.
Yeah, Cody Dennison's not far from here in Hopes Bluff.
Yeah.
Where's he from?
We'll see. And basically started everything out of his own backyard and worked his way up. So good for him.
Let's see where it goes.
Speaking of seeing where it goes, Freedom Racing Enterprises was a new team for 2024 started by Spencer Boyd. They ran the number 76 truck in 2024. This year, they're going to add a second part-time truck. They're breaking out the number 67. The truck at this moment ultra fast, 30 seconds, charge of the battery pack that should, series officials say, add about 10% more to the charge than without doing the pit boost. This feature can only be used once during the weekend. So in other words, if you use it Saturday, you can't use it on Sunday, and vice versa. It will be mandatory. You have to use it once throughout the course of the weekend. If the team doesn't use it, no matter what the reason, expect the team to be disqualified. The feature will not be in play for every race weekend. They're only going to put it into play for doubleheader weekends. So following Jeddah, there will be a doubleheader weekend at Monaco, then Tokyo, Shanghai, Berlin, and the season finale weekend in London. Formula E says they're working on trying this quick charging technology and hope that eventually it'll make its way into public use.
Okay.
Try and give you a little bit more power so that you can make it to the end of the race without freaking out about running out before, like on the last lap, which we have seen in both of the first two races of the year.
Yep.
And then a couple of more notes, more in just the general racing world here. If you've had cable or satellite, you're probably familiar as race fans, because you're listening to this show, with the network MAV TV. Well, they got good news for race fans that have already, like myself, cut the cable. A streaming service. It's available now. This will allow people in the U.S. and Canada to get something called MAV TV Go. Subscribers will see races and premium motorsports programming without needing a cable subscription. ESPN Plus. There are two plans to begin with, beginning with the standard plan, $7.99 a month, or at a slight discount, $79.99 per year if you choose to pay it all at one time. That will give the viewer access 24/7 to MAV TV, including mostly live programming, and the discount if you paid annually, again, not monthly. Then there's a premium plan, same situation. You can pay monthly, $19.99, or get a slight discount at $199.99 per year. Gives all the standard level features, plus you get next day video on demand access to race content, original shows, and other programs that have aired on the network, and exclusive access to premium motorsports events if you take the billing annually, which again, I repeat it, a discount to the monthly cost. Some of those premium motorsports events that might not actually show up on the network: Bathurst 12 hours for the Australian supercars, Nürburgring 24 hours, the 24 hours of Spa, in addition to coverage of the Australian supercars, the German DTM Series, and the Toyota GR Cup. You can find out more, and if you choose, start a 7-day free trial by going to mavtvgo.com. I got to admit, I kind of miss MAV TV, having cut the cable. I'm going to look into it, but I'm not 100% certain I'm willing to go and pop that money out just yet. And I'm not sure my wife is going to be willing to do that either, because I'm certainly going to have to pass that by the other half. Just put it that way.
Oh, Karen.
Yeah.
No, Steve.
Yeah, probably. And then there's iRacing. We just talked about them earlier with the kind of comparison between IndyCar and Formula One. Well, iRacing has also got the rights now to the NASCAR video game series. And they have given us some details about NASCAR 25. They've taken over the rights to produce the game. They've announced the game to be released later this year will be on consoles and PCs. And it will be the first to feature all four of NASCAR's top series in career mode. In career mode, you get to start in your own backyard garage with the ARCA Menard series, work on your driving and mechanic and team skills, and then advance from there, signing contracts, earning money, hiring staffers for your organization, expanding your shop, gaining more and more respect as you move up to the trucks, Xfinity, and then, you hope, the Cup Series and fame and fortune.
Well, the same path as Dirt to Daytona's back.
There you go. Specific release date has not been announced. iRacing says the fall of this year.
I'm just going to go ahead and call my warning shot. The first individual that runs console iRacing that tries to get on iRacing and mimic it and wrecks me in real life is going to die. I will send you flying.
You had a story about a
guy. just like I sent a former Cup driver flying the other night in the short track race because he tried to test me. He didn't test me no more.
No. There you go.
And when I mean ballparked him, I ballparked him.
Yeah. If you missed the beginning of the show, producer John in the hospital with RSV and the flu. We wish nothing but the best for him. Our thoughts and our prayers to him. He checked in a little bit earlier if you were chatting on CRN Live on YouTube. We wish nothing but the best for him. Our thoughts and our prayers are with him on that. And by the way, happy birthday to my wife.
Happy birthday,
Today
Karen.
Is her birthday. Congratulations and happy birthday, Karen. I'll see you in just a little bit. Y'all have a great week. Cross flags this week, Wednesday. We'll talk to you next weekend, too, here on CRN.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
This is where the classics live forever.
Here come the classics.
Keep it coming.
So good.
It's bigger, and bigger is better.
Yeah.
You love it.
Yes, I love that. This is going to be huge.
Non-stop.
Here we go.
This is WFEB 1340 AM, W265DV 100.9 FM Sylacauga, and WDNG 1450 AM, W236CQ 95.1 FM Anniston, 95.1 and 100.9 The Mountain, East Central Alabama's classic station.
Here is the latest weather from Alabama's meteorologist.